Hello, everybody. My name is Dave Finale, and this is Real Estate Talk TGIF. And this is episode 264, and that is 261 weeks in a row. That's over 5 years. We had 5 years last week. We have not missed a week in over 5 years. That's one thing that's really exciting for me. I'm really excited to keep going. And the whole idea behind what we're doing here has everything to do with giving value back to real estate agents. We're giving it to them as we do through the Modern Agent team, the Modern Agents group, and the Modern Agent experience. Every Wednesday from 9:30 to 1, we do that Modern Agent experience where we're setting appointments and we're coaching people side by side, which we don't see happen a lot all over the place. But anyway, here we are. We're just doing this great work, and I have a great friend and just a smart guy, Fernando Valencia from Unblinded here. And we're going to talk in a few minutes. Fernando, thanks so much for being on the broadcast today. We got a lot of great stuff to talk about. Here we go. Hello, real estate agents. Are you looking to acquire clients consistently to grow your business and income for a great lifestyle? Well, this is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and the Modern Agent team. Hey, everybody. Again, this is Real Estate Talk TGIF, episode 264. And Fernando, before we get started, there's a question I ask everyone on the broadcast. And the question is really simple. What does TGIF stand for?
Is it thank God it's Friday or thank God it's finale?
Thank God it's finale. You actually got it. I am so excited. Thank you so much. Yes, it is. And of course, we have a friend of ours saying hello to us right away at the start. Hello, Jason. Thanks for being on, man. So here it is. It is thank God it's finale. Of course, it's my broadcast. I call it anything I want. TGIF, it just happened to work out. So Fernando Valencia, man, I mean, you know what? You are co-founder and chief co-creation officer of Unblinded. Man, one of the things that really comes out in you and you say all the time is integrity to business, having integrity, which is really, I think, the base of everything that you do and we do. And you started your entrepreneurial journey at age of 13 and created your first $1 million business by age 21. Hey, man, you got to first tell me your story and all about that stuff. So talk to me.
Well, first of all, Dave, a big thank you for having me on the platform. 264 episodes, 261 weeks in a row is absolutely extraordinary. Most people can't do things for 2 days, let alone 5 years. So your incredible process mastery, diligence, and consistency is hands down world-class. And I always like to begin that, my story started, of course, with my parents, not only because they're my parents, but because of the opportunities and decisions that they made. They migrated from Colombia in 1986, and I was born in Jersey City, New Jersey, and grew up my first couple years in Union City and then Cliffside Park. And unlike most now, I am a millennial, and I take that with pride, as us millennials get a bad rap for being lazy and mooching off our parents, and that couldn't be furthest from the truth. But we're not going to have that conversation. No. And I remember being 13 years old. And I didn't want to be like the influencer. I didn't want the Rolexes. I didn't want the jets. I didn't want the houses. I didn't really know what the heck an entrepreneur was. And the only reason, Dave and everyone, why I started working is because of my naivete. The biggest challenges, and this is true for most Latin backgrounds, not all, is we had a lot of love. They gave me a lot of emotional intelligence, beautiful Christmases, but we didn't have a lot of money, Dave. And I remember growing up, the conversations I heard the loudest were about bills, debt, and divorce. So my naive 13-year-old self said, oh, I want to keep my parents together. I know what I have to do. I need to make money, because if I make money, my parents will get divorced. And that was literally the beginning of my entrepreneurial career. And I had the true privilege to meet this gentleman called Julio Bulnes, who was a photographer in Union City. And he gave me my first job, my actually one and only job, making $5 an hour. Eventually, I graduated to $9 an hour. And Dave, I usually don't share this, but that was actually my favorite job ever. I was in the dark room developing film the day before the iPhone. And I used to make $9 an hour, sitting with my boombox, talk to no humans. Because believe it or not, Dave, when I was growing up, I was short, shy, and chubby. I wasn't the person of influence that you've seen at the NARIP stage and that we've built together on our Hearts of Influence. And that progressed to building my first $100,000 business when I was 16 years old, as I became a wedding photographer. And I loved it truly, because I got to be around people, but I got to hide behind the camera. And that was my first exposure to people, my first exposure to business, and my first really exposure to sales was when Julio ran late to a meeting. And he's like, Fernando, he was calling me. He's like, hey, can you talk to the people? I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And I started talking to them, and they paid like $5,000 for us to be the photographers. And I'm like, wait, I make $9 an hour. These people just paid me $5,000 for an hour. I don't know what this is, but I like it, and I want to do more of it. And that was my first exposure into sales. Fast forward, I'm now 17 years old. I primarily did weddings, sweet 16s, bar and bat mitzvahs. And I met this guy known as Get Busy Izzy, who was a radio personality for 103.5, the new KTU in New York City. And I was at a wedding, and I remember seeing this guy, and he was everything, Dave, that I wasn't. He was good looking. He was charismatic. He was energy. People liked him. He was confident, and he was on the microphone in the middle of the dance floor, driving all this energy. And once again, in my naivete, I walked up to him, and my exact words, my professional, confident words were, excuse me, sir, what the heck are you doing? And he laughed, and he shared with me, I'm the master of ceremonies. I said, I don't know what that is, but I want that. And my dad drove me to the office. I told my father it was going to be a 30-minute meeting. 3 hours later, I walked out and I said, yeah, I'm done. I'm going to quit photography and I'm going to do this. My parents lost their minds because I had already been making more money than my mom and dad combined at that point. And they're like, you're crazy. What are you doing? And I'm like, I just don't want to be a photographer. The truth is I never really loved it. I was just doing it to make some cash. And I wanted to acquire a skill, which is at my time, in my mind, the ability to be confident. Right. And that's when I discovered a microphone, Dave. And that led me to build my first $1 million business in entertainment. I did about 2,500 events myself, and my company did over 5,000, and it was quite incredible. And that really catapulted my entrepreneur career to where it is today.
So you went from being a photographer, developing film, which I did years ago too.
That's
fun. Film in a darkroom, being a photographer, master of ceremonies, and having your own events company. Mm-hmm. So then there's you know where you and I have gotten together is through a mutual friend who's watching us now, Jay Levine, Unblinded. Yeah. So tell me about the story from then to Unblinded.
So I built this business, and I got to a point when I was 23 years old, and I was, doing well. I had tons of money. I didn't really have a lot of time freedom. And the truth is, Dave, that I was feeling utterly unfulfilled. And I remember at 23 years old, and I looked at my partners at the time who were like, 55 and, 47. And they were waking up every weekend at like 5 a.m., loading vans, doing this, getting home late. And I'm like, man, is that my future? Is that what the best of the best? And they were absolute rock stars in the industry. And I'm like, if that's what the top of the food chain looks like, I just don't want it. And I remember sitting with myself and going, I don't want my future daughter or son, when they're in school and they say, hey, what does your daddy do for a living? I don't want her to say, daddy does parties. I don't think I'm above people that do parties. I don't think I'm above anyone. I don't think anything is right or wrong. It's just not what I wanted. Right. And truth is, I didn't know what I wanted, but I didn't want that. So I decided to exit. I had the ability to sell my shares, which sounds really good when I say the story. But the truth, Dave, it was the most painful, horrific, scariest times of my life. And it was all self-inflicted. Because, as Tony Robbins says, humans will die for their identity. And until I was 23, my identity was I was going to be the greatest entertainer on the planet. And in that moment, I literally slaughtered that identity. And I just didn't want it. I didn't want to do it anymore. So I spent about 6 months in absolute despair. Didn't know what I want to do. And proceeded to say, well, maybe I can transition what I do with weddings, sweet 16s, and bar mitzvahs, and I can graduate into corporate America. So I recreated another event company, not because I particularly wanted to, but because of my relationships, resources, talent. And I was able to rebuild another $1 million business. But this time I created a secondary category, and that was in digital marketing. And as I was building my event business, at the same time, I was building my influencer marketing business. And I was, quote unquote, living the dream. I was taking private jets. I owned really nice watches. I was hanging out with really cool people. I was going to fun clubs and parties. And I was doing work with a ton of influencers that were selling courses and programs. And that lasted till about 27, Dave. And at 27, I had another come to Jesus moment where I was making a lot of money. I had acquired a lot more time freedom as I wasn't working weekends anymore,
Right.
But I didn't have a third category. And that third category was fulfillment. I just felt empty. And the reason why I felt empty is the deeper and deeper and deeper I got into the social media world, I realized it was fake. And the houses were rented, the watches were fake, the lifestyles weren't real, their relationships sucked, they were alone and scared. And I'm like, oh my God, I did it again. I got to the top of an industry just to figure out I don't want it anymore. Yeah. So now I'm 27. I'm sitting there going, what the heck do I do now? I definitely don't want to continue with events, which of course I still ended up in. I'll explain at Unblinded. I don't want to be selling programs and products for people I don't believe in. I believed in them, but the deeper I got, it was all show, no substance.
Right.
So I'm 27, Dave. And I'm like, what the heck am I going to do? And I learned about this guy called Tony Robbins. And at that point, at 27, I had read about 800 books. I've read close to 1,000 now. I've done dozens of courses on peak performance, communication. And I would consider myself certainly a scholar. I did get a full scholarship to college. I had a 3.97 in high school. I got a full scholarship to NJCU. So I was definitely academically smart, but the school system did not give me my smarts. Different story, different day. So now I'm 27 and I'm like, all right, what the heck do I want to do? I want to do this thing called peopleification. What is peopleification, Dave? A word. I had no idea what the heck it was, but I knew that I wanted to help other people achieve. So I said, I need to model the greatest person that I could find that is helping people achieve the things they want. And at that time, it was Tony Robbins. So I went to UPW, Unleash the Power Within at the Prudential Center in Newark. And I had a really incredible moment. I would consider myself a very punctual dude. And I'm learning about stage story strategy and about all my empowering beliefs. And come Saturday morning, I'm running late to Tony Robbins. And typically I would lose my mind. Traffic, this, go ahead.
Fernando, I have to interrupt you real quickly. I forgot to plug in my computer, so just give me 1 second. I'm sorry, everybody. I have never done this before in 250 weeks. I will be right back.
Please grab your computer. And in the meantime, I would just continue the beautiful story. Hello, Virginia Camano. Hello, Jay Levine. Quick commercial break. I would not have the relationship. I would not be on this podcast if it was not for Jay Levine. I would not be building this beautiful relationship with Dave if it was not for Virginia Camano, the president of the NAREP chapter in New Jersey. And Dave was source for connecting me to Virginia and NAREP, where we had an incredible speaking engagement. And that is all about merging ecosystems and doing the incredible things. So Dave, I heard the clunk. So the computer is back on. So boom, outside of the commercial break and back to the story. So now I'm at UPW, I'm running late, and usually I would be losing my mind. And I said, you know what? I'm just not. I'm going to calm down. I'm going to walk in, and it's all good. So I'm, tra-la-la-la-la, just strolling in the streets of Newark. And I see this long-haired Asian man with a camera and an orange scarf walking towards me. And I'm like walking down the street. I had seen him the day before as we were going out to the firewalks. I'd seen him already. No idea who he was, never heard of him, never saw him, had no idea. I walked past him. And the best thing I can say, Dave, is I heard a voice in my mind, I would call that God, that said, you need to talk to him or you will regret it. And I was like, all right. So I literally turned down, I'm running down the streets of Newark, which if you know Newark, no one wants to be getting chased at in Newark. And I just randomly start talking to this dude. And I used to take pride in not asking people what they do, because that's such a common question. So I'm like talking to this guy 45 minutes in, he goes, yeah, I'm Tony Robbins photographer. I'm like, no way. He goes, yeah, I'm Tony Robbins photographer. I'm like, no way. He starts showing me pictures of him and Tony Robbins, him and Donald Trump, him and the Dalai Lama, him and Barack Obama. And I'm like, this is insane. I'm talking to Tony Robbins photographer. And I'm like, listen, I'd like to, take you out to lunch, do a thing. We exchange numbers. I go into UPW, who's on stage jumping around like a ninja. This guy taking pictures of Tony. I'm like, this is crazy. So Saturday ends. This dude doesn't reply. I'm like, never going to happen. I get a random text on Sunday. Hey, I'm free at 11. Would you like to grab some lunch? I left UPW. I went, we had lunch. And he said to me, I've traveled all these countries. I've never gone to New York City, but I have Monday off and I'm flying back to Malaysia on Tuesday. I said, well, guess what? His name was Zung. I said, guess what, Zung? I would like to give you the greatest tour of New York City ever. So I cleared my schedule. I took him to New York City. And because of that and one of the indispensable elements, reciprocity, he was kind enough to invite me to a platinum dinner. What's a platinum dinner? It's a group of platinum partners that pay about $150,000 a year to be part of this group. And I went and I met some platinum partners. One of them, Sue Henderson, was Susan was kind enough to let me be her guest for Business Mastery. Now, why is that meaningful? Well, one, you save 40% off your ticket, which was cool. And two, and most importantly, you get to sit in the front with the platinum partners. So I was her guest and I went to Business Mastery and once again, my naivete said, I'm going to go and meet Tony Robbins. P.S. No one meets Tony Robbins at UPW. So I go there and I start telling all these people, Dave, I want to build peopleification. I'm going to model Tony. I'm going to build peopleification. And whether it was platinum partnership, the crew members, Diamond Premier, the front of the room, the back of the room, every time I told people my story, Dave, here's what they said. Have you ever met this guy called Sean Callaghy? I said, no, I've never heard of him. And he's a blind attorney from New Jersey. I'm like, he's from New Jersey. Why does everyone want me to meet this guy? He's from New Jersey. I've never heard of him. He sits in the front row there. And I pledged to myself, Dave, that no matter what happened, I was going to meet this guy. And I found my opportunity. And here was the opportunity. In Business Mastery, there's easily 5,000 to 7,000 people. You get together with different groups and you build a business and you raise money. And I said, no matter what, I'm going to be on this guy Sean's team. Everything happens, I'm not on his team. And I said, well, it's not the way the story is going to go. I left my team, which in retrospect, it probably wasn't very nice, but whatever, it ends well. I left my team. I walked right into the front row to Sean and all the platinum partners. And I said, hey, my name's Fernando. I'm going to be on your team. Give me all your numbers. I'll create the WhatsApp. And I did. And the whole day, everyone ignored me. P.S. I didn't know Sean was blind at the time. And no one responded. And typically in Sean manner, it's 11:30 at night. I'm in my boxers in my Airbnb about to go to bed. And I get a call from Sean. Hey, I'm at the hotel. We're working on the business. Do we want to meet? I said, I'll be right there. And the rest, Dave, is history. And that's how I met Dave. That's how I met Sean. And then from there, we continued to build Unblinded.
Okay. Love the story. It's great. I mean, Tony Robbins ignition, which is just amazing. I mean, I've had the UPW, I've been there, Firewalker, the whole thing. And it's just like an amazing experience. So you start working on Unblinded. For everyone that's watching this or will watch this, Fernando, what is Unblinded?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question, Dave. And I'll start with this. At that point in meeting Sean, I had a primary question. And my primary question was, why don't honest, hardworking, integrous people ever get everything they want? I'm like, I don't get it. I thought if you worked hard, you were just guaranteed to get everything.
Right.
And I looked at my parents who worked really hard, who didn't have the abundance and freedom. I met a lot of people at Tony Robbins that worked really hard, that didn't have all the things they want. And the truth is I didn't know why. And Sean began to teach and train me on our work called integrity-based human influence. So what is Unblinded? Unblinded is a formula. Unblinded is a movement. Unblinded is a way of being. And just like gravity or electricity, there are certain laws that are governing our lives. And the formula is one of them. And self-influence and process mastery is governing your money, your time, and your magic. So think of it this way. Integrity-based human influence is what we train. Like if people were to say, hey, so Fernando, what is the company? Like if you're a realtor, you help people buy and sell homes. If you're an accountant, you help them do your taxes and bookkeeping. If you're a lawyer, you help them, sue people or write certain contracts. What I do is training and development. Sounds very boring, but that is what I do, training and development. I don't like saying it that way because it's so much more. And what we train on, and you, of course, Dave, know this as the incredible coach, leader, mentor that you are. And we, Albert Einstein said, make everything as simple as possible, but not simpler. And you can't possibly get any simpler than what I'm about to say. Integrity-based human influence has 3 sections. Over here, you have what we call self-mastery. What is self-mastery? Anything you've ever heard about peak performance, mindset training, professional development, personal development, put all that in the bucket of self-mastery. What is the purpose of self-mastery? There's only two things that limit us, Dave, no matter who you are, where you're from, what you believe in. There's two primary fears. One of them is fear of failure. The other one is fear of rejection. And self-mastery is your ability to move through fear of failure and fear of rejection. What are some components of self-mastery? The content you consume, your diet, your workout, your empowering and limiting beliefs, the music you listen to, the mentors you have, the drugs you take in your body. And I'm talking about legal drugs like dopamine and oxytocin and endorphins, not any of those other ones. But this is what self-mastery is about. And on the other end of moving through your fear of failure and fear of rejection, you get to be in what we call zone action. What is zone action? It is the most effective, efficient, and optimal step you can take today for the rise of your money, your time, and your magic. That is self-mastery. In the middle, we have what we're most known for, which is influence mastery. What is influence mastery? I believe that influence mastery is the only, not the most, the only attainable superpower that any human being can actually possess. Unless anyone watching knows someone that can fly or breathe fire, influence mastery still is the only attainable superpower. What is influence mastery? Is your ability to go from hello to yes, one-on-one and one-on group. And that's all about communication, charisma. So when anyone says, hey, that person is so genuine, that person is so charismatic, that person is so confident, what they're actually saying is that they're masterful in their influence. And we break down influence into 4 steps, 12 indispensable elements, and 4 energies. And the final piece over here to the right, Dave, is process mastery. And this is how you learn. This is the who, what, where, why, when of sales, marketing, management, leadership, retention. And process mastery is the easiest to understand because it is the only one you can tangibly measure. You can measure the amount of phone calls you make. You can measure your critical drivers and KPIs. This you can measure. Self-mastery is a little less tangible, but you could measure, having a keg versus a 6-pack. And influence mastery is a little bit more tangible than self-mastery, but still very elusive. And you can tell by the way you're received, how you have in your interpersonal relationships. And now here's the bottom line and final thought on this, Dave, is all 3 are critical. And the greatest pain I have in the teaching, training, coaching world is that they just tend to focus on one. Hey, I know what's going to change your life. Work out. Hey, I know what's going to change your life. Meditate. I know a lot of people that meditate that are broke because I'm not making fun of them. I meditate a lot. I meditate, I pray, all the things, but it's not holistic. And here's how it works. If you have incredible self-mastery and you can move through your fear of failure and rejection, and you have incredible process mastery, which is what and how to do things, but you're not able to influence others, you don't get the things you want. On the flip side, if you're an incredible communicator and you know exactly what to do, but you're stuck and frozen by fear of failure and rejection, you will not act, you will not get the things you want. And finally, if you have incredible self-mastery, you're incredibly influential, but you have no idea how to channel that to get the things you want, you will not get the things you want. So that is what Unblinded is. It is a holistic technology, a human technology that helps people rise in their self, influence, and process mastery.
Okay, so there's a common denominator I see here, a common theme, not denominator, a common theme, right? So it is as Jay's saying, it is science, right? I get that, right? So one of the things that seems to be coming out through everything is that one of our roadblocks, one of the things that gets in our way is fear of rejection and fear of failure, right? So in the real estate business, one of the biggest problems that most agents have, they need to generate leads. Okay, so I'm going to bring this back to there. Okay, if that's okay,
please.
And I look at it as there's experts out there who will talk about this fear, this problem, this call reluctance, so to speak, is all based in your past, is all based in family, it's all based in a lot of different things where it all goes through what you're taught, Now, I've said this before and I'll keep saying it again. I mean, what I've tried to do with that kind of thing, like, how are your parents? Did they fight? Did they do this? Did they do that? Right. And that was where your fear of failure, your fear of rejection is, because you don't want to get yelled at, et cetera, et cetera. And then it comes into the path that we've taken and been forced to take through life of going through grammar school, where our creativity is taken away. And it's taken away between the 3rd and 4th grade, right? Where, it's no longer okay for you to be yourself, right? So I say, people say, like, don't worry what people think, sing like no one's listening. I say, act and do whatever you want, like a 4-year-old, because they really don't give a shit if anybody's listening, right? And that's, and kind of like, that could be arrogant, that could be rude, but the way I look at it is, in self-mastery, to bring it to there, it's a mindset. It's a personality that comes out to eliminate a failure, a doubt, if you will, right? In life, we have a path to take where we can go right or we can go left. And funny enough, right, when we talk about right, if we look in French, right is adroit, which is in English is adroit, which means skilled, or à gauche is left, and gauche, when that's like kind of like negative, so we always want to go the right way. But a lot of me, like me, I've been going left my whole life and had to go through the trees to get to the right side as they move on. And this is one of the things they say. So with Unblinded and the mastery of it, getting through this rejection part, which to most agents is called reluctance, we can call it that. Mastering the mindset and the personal part of it can be done exactly as you say it, and that's what's really cool about the three forms of mastery: self-mastery, influence mastery, and process mastery, where process can be measured. Self-mastery is a little different. Talk to me about, when we talk about fear, when we talk about doubt, how one or all 3 of these things can really put it all together.
Yeah. So first and foremost, Dave, I could not possibly agree more. And I hold incredible space and empathy, because fear is a real thing. And let me be crystal clear, and let me tell on myself, I am a perfectly imperfect human. I still have fears. I still have doubts. I still doubt myself. These things happen. The difference is that I have tools, mechanisms, and conditioning that allow me to move through them much faster. Now, I have not mastered completely alleviating my fears. I would be a liar if I were to say that. And I would not ever recommend anyone strive to not have any fears. I would say, and I would challenge, that your ability to move through them quicker is much more attainable than your ability to completely remove them. And this morning on the morning huddle, we really narrowed it down. And I don't mean to oversimplify, but to truly unpack this, we would need a little bit more time. We spent 4 days in full immersion just on self-mastery, for example. We did that in January. But really, it boils down to one thing. And yes, I hold space for your parents, school, conditioning, society, all those different things. But really, it boils down to one thing. And that one thing is called choice. Because those are the choices. That's the one thing I have control over. I choose my fears. Like, I could be scared of spiders, for example. I chose that fear because spiders, for the most part, aren't deadly, except there are some. But for the most part, they're not. And in my head, they look like the size of the Empire State Building, but they're actually sometimes very small and harmless. So I choose my own fears. Like, the thought of, for some agents, picking up the phone, calling someone they don't know is the same as like looking down the barrel of a gun. And that is a choice.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a choice. There's no life and death. You're not going to die if someone tells you to go F yourself. It's not going to happen. You might die a little inside, laugh, laugh, chuckle, chuckle, but you're definitely not going to die. And we choose our fears. So at the same time, if we could accept, and some of you out there might be like, dude, like, that's easy for you to say. Yeah, I get that. And yeah, it's just as easy for you to say also, because you choose your fears. Now, I'm holding space. There's certain traumas and events, and some like, well, I didn't choose to get blanked. I didn't choose for this to happen. Yeah, you're right. And you do get to choose how you view the story. You do get to choose what's this happening to you or for you. And even the most traumatic of experiences, we have the ability to choose, did this happen to us or did this happen for us? Because I would gamble, Dave. Oh, go ahead.
Or did this happen? Excuse me, 1 second. Or did this happen because of us?
Yeah, also very true. And I would gamble, Dave, that some of your greatest successes came from your greatest failures and your greatest pains.
Hell
and
yeah.
It did for me. As I shared in my story, when I lost my identity, that was a story. I didn't lose anything at all. I created a story that I lost my identity when I was 23, but I didn't. What actually happened is I got the opportunity to recreate it, and now I have the life I have now. So for everyone watching, what I would ask you to do is to do an audit of yourself and ask yourself, what are my actual fears? What does fear of failure actually mean? Let me define it. What does fear of rejection actually mean? And to be completely honest, fear of rejection doesn't even actually exist. I leave it there because it does for many people, but the only person that can actually reject you is you. When you get dumped, you reject yourself, not the person. When someone says no to you, you say no to yourself, not the actual person. So the only actual fear that exists is fear of failure. And that, my friends, Dave and everyone, is a choice. So Dave, back to you.
Exactly. It's a choice. And, I want to just take a second and thank you guys for appearing at the recent NARUP event that you mentioned earlier. Both you and Sean appeared and talked. And one of the things I had gotten from Sean was, and we talked about this earlier, was before we went on the air, is about freedom. And since that event, I write every day. I write something every day. I write gratitudes, affirmations. I write a little download in my head, and the top of my affirmations, before I write them, I write something about freedom. Mm. Freedom is a choice, right? Freedom is a choice, whether it's with the way you feel, whether you need money for the freedom. The most important thing that I can say is that you have to achieve the freedom by the actions that you take, right? So we talked briefly earlier about how I thought that the freedom that Sean talked about really worked into one of my favorite books called The Four Agreements, right? Talk to me a little bit about what freedom means when we talk about through Unblinded and Sean and everything. What does being free mean?
Yeah, freedom means the ability to be completely self-expressed. It's the ability to choose what levels of self-influence and process mastery you reach to. When we talk about money, time, and magic, it doesn't mean you have to be a billionaire. Some people just want an extra 100 grand. Some people are happy with making a medium income of 60,000. Doesn't make someone who's a millionaire better than someone who makes 50,000. It's all relative. And freedom is the freedom of choice, is that I decide what money, time, and magic means to me. And so many of us go through our entire lives without actually choosing. Some of us write our obituary and realize what we want to be when we die. I study Stoicism a lot. And one of the sayings in Stoicism is memento mori. And for example, my girlfriend, Martha, has a different perception on death. I see death as a friend. I see death as a possibility, because without death, I would take a lot more for granted. And without death, I would think I have unlimited time, which I do not. So my association to death is motivating. I think about it almost daily, not in a morbid way, but in a motivational way, because I strive to be free every day. And I do it in a perfectly imperfect way, Dave.
So when we talk about freedom, and you mentioned death, okay, so let's just use that as an example, and let's use other things as an example, good, bad, right? So there has, in my opinion, and the way I've read and the readings I've done, is that you're never going to see a Superman movie without a villain. Yes. Because actually the villain defines Superman.
Yes.
All right. And just like death defines our lives, where are we going? I mean, you know what? I don't want to be the guy that says, you know what, I should have worked more. And look, honestly, I got more days behind me than I do in front of me. And right, Jay, it provides us a contrast where it's a motivating factor for some, but negativity can be a motivating factor for others. But the way I like to look at it is that, for instance, I make calls every day. I have call reluctance every day. I have fear of rejection every day. But the way I look at it is I get through that with my first call. And it's like most people just in a comic way, I say, we got to pick up this 700-pound phone, right? And then we got to dial it. And as we're dialing it, we hit send, and we're just saying to ourselves, voicemail, please, voicemail, right? So that's what we say when we're making calls and calling for sale by owners, et cetera, et cetera. But I take that fear away by saying, please let me see who I can help on the other end of this phone. It is a matter of choice. And that in and of itself is where freedom starts. Would you agree with that?
I would. And Tony Robbins says that most people will do anything to avoid pain than to attract pleasure. So negative responses are positive depending on your perception of them. Like, I will do more to make sure that my future family has what it wants than I will to have temporary satisfaction today, because I do more to avoid pain than to attract pleasure. And just like you beautifully said, I love the idea of the 700-pound phone, Jay Levine. And that's all about, that's all about doing the things. And all of this, Dave, really falls back once again to choice, our belief system, not our morals and our values. That's over there. It's our choices and our beliefs. And whether it's death, whether it's a 700-pound phone, even the idea of it being a 700-pound phone, I know you're being playful and joking, like that's a choice. That's a choice. We're choosing these realities every single day. And what you do is so powerful, because when you write and when you think and when you plan, you're creating very positive responses in your mind. You're creating positive framings, as we would call them, and you're choosing your day. Like, I'm choosing to time block to do this, whether you're enjoying it and fear's coursing through your body and there's cortisol everywhere. Yeah, I get that, but you do it anyway. And what we realize after the first, second, and third call is that the fourth, fifth, and the sixth just get easier. But that first choice, like, I'm not, like, right now, I'm in a beautiful place of health. I've lost, a good amount of weight. I've lost about 6% body fat. I'm in, the greatest shape of my life, and I want to reach another level. And my choice is no sugar. And that's very hard, because I love Nutella. I was a short, shy, chubby kid. I love Nutella. I love cookies. I love cake. So the thought of not having sugar is like so stressful. And every day when I look at all these beautiful treats and I choose no, it's empowering, because I decide. Back to you, Dave.
Exactly. You decide. Okay. So when we talk about choice and we talk about freedom and we talk about the 4 agreements aside, right? So you use a very strong word, one of my favorite words. And I loved it. I'm going to give you my story on what the word decide actually means. Now, decide, actually, if you look at the last 4 letters, the CIDE means murder. It means to kill off, right? So I want to just give everybody a quick example of how they can really understand what a true decision is. Everybody here, including yourself, we were talking about before we went on the air about restaurants, right? We go out to eat. I love to do it. I enjoy it. I'm a foodie. I love to cook most of the things I see, and a lot of times they don't cook it as well as I do. But anyway, that's beside the point. So you go out and you got a choice on a menu. Some restaurants have huge choices, have huge menus, and there's so many things there. What the hell do I have? A lot of people say, I don't know what to do. I don't know. And so a lot of times when I choose a restaurant, I always go online and I look at the menu first. So I have a really good idea, so I don't have to go through that crap, because I'll do it, right? I taught my daughter the same thing. She always had trouble going to restaurants because she didn't know what to order and she didn't want to look like a jerk. So I said, go online first, right? And it worked really well. Anyway, so you are sitting at the restaurant and you can't decide between the bone-in ribeye, the chicken parmesan, or the salmon. Okay. Well, here it is. Like, I got 3 things. What am I going to have? The chicken? Well, I don't know. All right. I know what? I'll do the bone-in ribeye. You order the bone-in ribeye and you have your salad or whatever they bring. You've decided against that chicken and that salmon. It's gone. Not even there. All you care about is that bone-in ribeye, right? Every time you think the server's coming out of the kitchen with food, when it's time for you to get your food, all you're doing on that tray is looking for that bone-in ribeye. That's all you're looking for. You're not looking for chicken. You're not looking for the person you're at dinner with, their food. You're looking for yours. That is the true definition of what a decision is, and a true example of it, because that's all I want. And when you decide that you want to achieve something in particular or something specific, if you can choose that bone-in ribeye and stick with it, you will never fail.
Yeah. And, Dave, that reminds me of a fun little story. And, a lot of people know me for what I do in business and different things. and I will share a beautiful example of how our work can translate to a child. So I am a proud uncle of 4. I have a niece who just turned 16, and I have a nephew whose name is Michael. He is 12, and he is my best buddy. And Father's Day was just coming along, and he's like, "Hey, Theo, he actually calls me Tony, which that's a longer story, different day. Clearly, there's not even a resemblance of Tony in my name, but yes, they do enjoy calling me everything besides my name. That's its own thing." So Father Day is coming, and he's texting me all these different things that he wants to buy his dad. It's like a Megatron, it's like this other Optimus Prime, and it's like a replica of a car, and all these different options. He's like, I need your help when you get home. Can we sit down? Can we talk about it? I'm like, yeah, no problem. So I get home. It's like a Monday or a Tuesday. He comes downstairs and he's like, all right, let's figure it out. So we're sitting, and I'm looking to empower him to make his own choice as this conversation. I don't want to choose for him. I want to empower him to make his own choice. So I start asking him questions of like this, what are you looking for? What do you want? And he goes, I'm not sure. So I'm like, all right, how about we flip a coin? And he goes, okay. So I grab a coin, and I'm like, well, buddy, there's only 2 sides and you have 3 options. He's like, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, I guess we got to choose 2. And he's like, all right, only this one and this one. What does that say to me? That third option he didn't really want to get. And he made that decision on his own. So now we have 2 coins, and I'm like talking to him. I'm starting to raise my tempo, raise my speed. I'm like, looking, I'm like, all right, we can do this, we can do this. All right, when I flip the coin, I want you to choose. This side is this, not heads or tails. I said, this side is the car, this side is the toy. This side is the car, this side is the toy. And I'm talking, distracting, but then I flip the coin and I say car or toy. I don't say heads or tail. And he says car. And I let the coin hit the floor, and I said, it doesn't matter what side it's on. You just chose car. And he goes, whoa, that was really cool. I'm like, what was really cool? He's like, how you did that? I'm like, what did I do? He's like, you helped me choose. I said, no, you chose. And we laughed, and I picked my hand up, and it was car. And we laughed about it. And that is such a beautiful example, because I remember, yes. I believe I was about 17 when I read this quote, and I wish I could remember where I read it. It goes, everyone knows what they want when the coin is in the air. And for many, many years, and I wouldn't recommend this to people, I've made a lot of life decisions by flipping a coin. I used to carry a coin in my pocket, literally a specific coin, for this reason. And I taught him that lesson, because everyone always knows what they want when the coin is in the air. And he went from like all these choices to 3 choices to he actually knew what he wanted. He just wanted validation from someone besides himself, so he doesn't make the wrong decision, so he's not rejected and he doesn't fail. And I empowered him to make his own choice. And he tells everyone that story. He's ran around, told my whole family. And then I'll end with in fun energy. And then I say, all right, buddy, how are we going to pay for this? And he goes, I thought you were going to pay for it. I go, well, that's not my dad. You're mistaken. And we went through this whole journey of having him go collect money from different people. I was the bank. I was charging him interest. And I'm like, well, if you don't want to pay interest, then we got to work out every time we hang out. And they're making these deals. And I taught him this whole business lesson simply by choosing a gift for his father, because all those moments matter. And that went from a, Monday night, help me pick a toy, to I guarantee a core memory in our relationship, and something that was so much more profound. And I knew that's what it was going to be, because I chose it to be more than just a choice. Back to you.
You know what? That really hits home with me, simply because a lot of times when I have people involved in my life or my business or whatever, I always want to ask them what they think. I can do this, or I can do this, or I've got to go this way with a deal, or should I do that? And it's like it's a validation point that we get into in our lives that has a lot to do with freedom. And look, hey man, it took me many, many years. I mean, I've been in one way, shape, or form the real estate business for 44 years now. And it was always like, should I do this? Should I do that? It's like, sometimes making that decision is the hardest thing that one can do, because we want validation. We want validation from a lot of different things. And talk to me about how that validation point can be worked through. Can you help me with that?
Of course. And Dave, I appreciate your vulnerability in the question. And the hardest thing, if you ever want to see a man or a woman cower in fear, make them choose. Because choice puts us on the line. Because when we choose, we're making an affirmative decision. So we look for validation from society. That's why people wear Jordans. That's why people wear name brand clothes. It's all a version of validation. Now, validation is a beautiful topic and conversation. What I would share in a headline in the time we have here is that there's a possibility for you to choose that you can validate yourself. And that takes a ton of self-mastery, because when we allow validation to come from the outside world, listen, it's nice. I like being validated. I just received the Beacon Award from the Ellis Island Honor Society this year, which was created by President Ronald Reagan, which named me one of the top 15 most influential philanthropic immigrants in America. That was very validating, considering that my dad was born in a farm in Colombia next to horses and pigs. My mom and dad don't even speak English. How the heck am I the most influential immigrant, one of the top 15 in the nation? That's crazy. But it's not, because I chose that when I was 27. I met Sean and I mastered this formula. So I'm not saying, I'm not vilifying validation. It felt really good to be recognized. It felt very good to have Marvin Scott, an anchor of WPIX New York, an anchor on the news for 30, 40 years.
I remember.
Yeah, he's been part of this event for 30 years. He came up to me. I didn't go to him at the end of the event. And he said, Fernando, I've been doing this event since its inception, and no one has ever hosted this as great as you. We'll see you in September. And P.S. Dave, the person who hosted this the year before me was the one and only Dr. Oz. Now, I don't have Dr. Oz's identity, but I guarantee you with complete humility, I'm more influential than Dr. Oz. Why? Because I understand a formula. So validation is a beautiful thing. And once you have some from society, I no longer need more of that validation. I have it. I got it. I acquired it. Now I can choose my own validation. And I share that story because I just validated myself for who I am, what I am, and what I choose to be. And now that's become part of my identity. No one can take away that I am one of the top 15 most influential philanthropic immigrants in the nation. I choose that identity. I validate myself. And if anyone goes, well, how do you get to choose that? Well, I didn't choose that for myself. The Beacon Awards and the Ellis Island Honor Society did. So I could have chosen that anyway. I believe that was very influential. I didn't need them to tell me that, but it felt really good when they did.
100%. Congratulations on that. So let me ask you this question along with that. So you're validated by that, right? How does someone validate themselves as not actually an expert in anything, but someone that can really accomplish something? How do you get validated for that? Is it something that others do, or can you validate yourself?
Yeah, Dave, short answer is you can do it yourself. And I'll give you an example.
Good.
So I've always been the youngest in everything I've done. I was the youngest. I graduated high school early. I was always the youngest in my friends group. All my partners were older. You know, you look at Sean, 150-person law firm, recovered $500 million for medical providers. You look at Adam Gugino, built a $750 million company. And then there's good old Fernando. And like, just hold space for this, everyone. What the heck does a 31-year-old who doesn't have a financial license, who's never sold a financial product, what do they have to teach someone who was voted top 500 women in finance, who works for Merrill Lynch? P.S. Her name's Beth McKenna. I coach her. What the heck does that 31-year-old have to give that person value? What the heck does a 31-year-old who didn't go to law school, is not an attorney, what possible value can you give someone like Tanya Freeman, who in her first year of law built a $750,000 book of business, currently a $2.4 million book of business, just transitioned, went to Callagy Law. She is the president of University Hospital. And when she has a speaking engagement, you know who she calls, Dave? She calls me. So what the heck does a 31-year-old who didn't go to law school, didn't go to finance, what the heck does a 31-year-old who never had a corporate job, I've never been given an offer in my life, I've never had paid time off, I've never worked for a corporation, what does an international HR manager, her name is Maritza, who works for Exxon, why do all these people call me coach? Why does Virginia Camano and Jay Levine, I've never sold a home in my life, why do they call me coach? Here's why. Because here's the value I have, that I bring, that everyone watching can bring, that I didn't believe in, but my coach, Sean Callagy, did. And he told me this. He said, Fernando, one day your mastery in this formula will become your identity. Because what makes me valuable to those people is my ability to discern and understand and create value. That's what makes me valuable. That's what can make anyone valuable. Because a realtor, let me tell you what you're actually doing. You're discerning value for a buyer and a seller on whether they should buy or sell that home. That's what you're doing. As an accountant, let me tell you what you're doing. You're discerning value on what they should do with their taxes. As a lawyer, let me tell you what you're doing. You're discerning value on whether someone should sign that agreement or not. It's all the same thing. All of it. It just has different names and titles. But when you master the ability to discern value, you become infinitely valuable for people. And no one blessed me with that. I chose that identity. And I'm not the oldest. I don't have kids, but I guarantee you, I'm not married, but I can teach most people about relationships. I can teach most people about raising kids. And darn, I teach a heck of a lot of people how to grow their business, even though I haven't done it in their industry, because of my ability to understand, discern, and convey value. And Dave, if little old Fernando could do it, anyone watching can do it also.
I just got to drop a mic right now. So that was excellent. Thank you. That's the thing, we see as outsiders or as civilians or whatever way you want to call it, we see others doing really, really well. We see others that we admire, right? Others that we want to go see. Oh, you got to go see this guy, right? Whether you're whatever your thing is, whether it's being a real estate agent, whether it's being a coach, whether it's being a musician, for all that matter, right? We always, aspire to that next level. I think a lot of us do, and a lot of us fake it. A lot of us think we are. Look, I tell you what, truth be told, I speak to a lot of agents every day, and while they aspire to it, they ain't there. And you see a lot of phonyism, okay? Where you fake it until you make it, or you just plain freaking fake it. And I see a lot of it. What would you say to the ones that, what's a nice way of putting it? The ones that think highly of themselves but aren't really doing it. Is there a way to get through to say, see how I can help you, see what you can do for them? Or am I going the wrong direction here?
No, brother, you are an incredible host and guiding this in the most beautiful of ways. And thank you for that opportunity. Here's what I would say to the fake it till you make it. First, let me tattletale on myself. I, in my early 20s, faked it till I made it. And I now, in retrospect, would not suggest that. And I'm going to say something that's going to make absolutely no sense to most men and some women, but certainly most men, is that vulnerability and self-deprecation is a superpower. We are trained not to say, I don't know. We are trained not to say, I am uncertain. We are trained not to say, I am scared. We are trained not to say, I don't have the answer. And that's just attractive. And I'm not talking about like sexy and visual. I'm talking about it's attractive energetically. And sometimes one of my favorite quotes was when someone was interviewing Henry Ford, and they asked him like this, a reporter was trying to stump him and asked him this really complicated mathematical question. And Henry Ford goes, I do not know the answer, but I guarantee you I can find someone that does. And I remember hearing that in my teens going, I like that. And my coach, Sean, when I came in at 27, I had ageism. I respected my elders. I'm like, look at all these people. I'm not a professional. What value can I give to them? And what he told me is to just be honest, just be vulnerable. And I'm like, are you crazy, dude? Like, are you crazy? And it worked. And now I coach accountants, wealth advisors, realtors, corporate Americas. I coach celebrities, athletes, and I'm not a celebrity. I'm not a professional athlete. But once again, I have value to give them in discernment. And in the beginning, when I didn't have all these beautiful accolades, and that's another big thing for people, is like, yeah, well, Fernando, I wasn't voted the top 15 of anything. I didn't build $1 million business. Yeah, before I had that, you want to know what my stories were, Dave? My stories are what I did at my fraternity. The fact that when I got there, we were $40,000 in debt, about to be unrecognized by nationals, get kicked off campus. And by the time I left 4 years later, we were the largest fraternity on campus by a multiple of 3. We were top 3 of 257 chapters competing against UNC that had 800 members and mansions. We raised close to $500,000. That was my identity, because part of influence mastery, there's 4 steps: building rapport, pain and yes, heroic unique identity, agreement formation. Your heroic unique identity is not a bio. It's not a unique selling proposition. It's not a mission statement. It's an ever-growing mechanism. And simply by me telling you all the story of what I did with my nephew, you saw certain things in me that made me heroic. You saw my patience. You saw my love. You saw my desire to give a child something. And that's just as powerful as building $1 million business. If I speak to someone who has a child, that's going to be very touching for them. So you don't need accolades to have a heroic, unique identity. They help. They help that I can say them. But for those realtors out there that haven't done, 10 million in volume or whatever, or haven't sold their first home, you have a heroic, unique identity. I promise you that you do. And part of our work is to help you find them. And when you realize that you don't need accolades to be heroic, and you can share a story of who you were this one time you did a good deed, that could become your identity, Dave.
So we're coming up on time, but I have to ask you this question from what you just said. You said a couple of things, but one of the things I heard was self-deprecation is a superpower. I really need to ask you to explain that.
Yeah. For everyone watching, if you rewatch the video, I did it multiple times throughout this conversation, because if not, you would all think my ego is the size of Texas. So I said multiple times, listen, I am perfectly imperfect. You know what? First, let me tattletale on myself. I thought, fake it too. I admit to my faults. Any superhero has weaknesses, every single one of them. And that doesn't make them any less heroic. It makes them even more heroic because we see our future in them. It is impossible to be perfect. So when you can be self-deprecating and you can show that you have flaws, that you've made mistakes, that you've done things and you've grown through them, that's attractive. That makes people, that creates what we call a zone of safety and allows people to see and hear you in a different way. Because if you're just a slick talking, and Sean tells me all the time in Fun Energy, you're a good looking, tall Latin man, that makes me innately threatening. I don't want to be threatening. I'm very sensitive. I cry, regularly. I don't want to be threatening, but because of the way I look, the way I talk, the way I present myself, I could be very threatening to people. So when I share my weaknesses and I self-deprecate, and I make myself not perfect, that makes me more attractive, not in a physical way, in an energetic way, and it makes me more easy to talk to and be relatable to.
Thank you for that definition, because a lot of times self-deprecating, it's a woe is me kind of attitude, and that's exactly not what you're talking about.
No, not at all. So.
Hey man, so look, this has been, it just flew, right? So I want to talk about a couple of really quick things. You have an event coming up.
Yes.
And talk to me a little about your event, July 13th to the 16th.
Yeah, so July 13th to the 16th at the Westin in Jersey City, overlooking the New York City skyline, where we're going to see the Freedom Tower, the Statue of Liberty. We're going to be unleashing our word of the day, which is freedom. We're going to be unleashing our freedom as we spend 4 days with, hands down, the greatest speaker on one-on-one and group influence in the world. Tony Robbins has said, no one leads with more heart and integrity than Sean Callagy. If you don't know what he's up to, you need to. We've used our superpower of influence to raise over $10 million for charities just in 2022. We've done over 2,000 speaking engagements. And for all my realtors out there, and an incredible thank you to Nuria Rivera, the national president of NAREP, Virginia Camano, Dave Finale, Eric Estevez, and of course, Jay Levine, we're going to be speaking at Latitude, where 3 years ago, the speaker was Gary Vaynerchuk. The year before that was Barack Obama. And this year, it's a guy named Sean Callagy. And we're going to be spending 4 days teaching and training on one-on-one influence, not group influence. We go to Grand Cayman and LBI, where we bring hundreds of people and we teach how to speak publicly. We're going to be working 4 days on one-on-one influence, how to build rapport, how to take people to their truth and yes, how to convey your heroic, unique identity, and then how to formulate agreements. We don't even use the word close. I know close means something else in the world of real estate, but we formulate integrous agreements with people. And here's what I like to do on the show. Virginia and Jay might hate me for it, but whatever, I coach them, so they're going to have to live with it. So they have some tickets that they have invested in because of their investment in our program. And they have 20 tickets that they have already sponsored. And I'd like to give them to Dave and his guest. So if you'd like to attend, these are $3,000 tickets, $3,000 general admission, $5,000 is VIP. I have 20 tickets that I'd like to sponsor on behalf of Jay Levine and Virginia Camano. For anyone watching, if you're interested in that ticket, my request is that you reach out to Dave, as I want to honor him for having me be on the show. I've invited Dave as a guest. He has not confirmed whether he's going to be there or not. And whether he is there or not, I'd like to gift Dave and his ecosystem these tickets. There's nowhere else that you can go to get a free ticket, nowhere online. You have to know someone. And it's not like something that we do. And the reason why I'm doing it is because Jay and Virginia have already sponsored them. They have already paid for them. And currently at this juncture, haven't fully used them. They've used some of them, but we still have 20 in our docket. So if you enjoyed this conversation, if you want to be next to 300 to 400 professionals, all the names I've mentioned, legal, accounting, financial, business owners, all that's going to be in the room. It's about 10 hours a day, Thursday to Sunday. And I promise you, here's my ridiculous guarantee that if at some point, well, these are all sponsored tickets, but this is what we tell people, that if at some point in those 4 days, you don't A, thank Unblinded, B, thank the person that invited you, or C, thank God, we'll give you a full money back guarantee. That's how committed we are that this will be, hands down, not one of the most transformative 4 days of your life. That's what we've committed to. So the link is on the screen. It's July 13th through the 16th at the Westin in Jersey City. And because of you watching TGIF episode 264, and thank you to Jay Levine and Virginia Camano, and of course, Dave Finale, we're going to give away 20 sponsored tickets. Those are going to move quite quickly. You must reach out to Dave. Dave will connect me. You can reach out to me directly, and I will honor Dave regardless. But that's happening July 13th through the 16th.
Hey, man, this has been an extremely impactful episode of Real Estate Talk TGIF. It's hard for me to not have anything to say. So I'll just end it with this is two things. Number one, man, first of all, thank you. And second of all, how can I help you grow your business?
Well, Dave, you can continue to bring this good work forward. We believe in merging ecosystems where 1 + 1 = 1 trillion units of value, or at least more than 10, certainly more than 3, to make the world an even greater place. And this is what I will say to you, Dave, because you asked. I am on a mission in the next 60 days to book 30 speaking engagements inside of brokerage offices. I'm on that mission. I'm currently on number 7 of 30. I believe I will do that in less than 60 days. And these are things that for some I will charge, for some it's complimentary, like we did at NAREP. But I'm looking to book 30 speaking engagements inside of 30 speaking engagements inside of 30 brokerage offices, in person or virtual, in the next 60 days. If there's anyone watching that'd be open to have myself or Sean go in to speak, if there's anyone you know that's a broker that would find value in this conversation, of course, we'll honor you as that relationship. We'd love that introduction.
Well, thank you so much. And I will do my best to work on that. And we only have one other thing to talk about here aside. Well, we do have one other thing, but that's nearly not as important as the hat. So, I think you get that. You get the hat. And along with that, I want to say again, thank you. Next week, guys, we're going with 265. We're going to have Michelle Berman on, owner and founder of Berman Media and Instagram Power Method. If you think you know about Instagram, you don't. You need to attend that broadcast next Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And again, Fernando, thank you so much for everything today and enlightening me on a lot of things. If you can, just stay on for a second, everybody. Thank you so much, everybody. We will see you all next week with Michelle Berman. Hit it, Mel. And there we go. Thank you.